Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome back. This is another Roma Press live stream. I wanted to catch up today after last night's failed attempt at what could have been a special live stream together with John. Obviously, we were about to do an epic live stream together for the transfer window, which shut down last night in Italy at midnight. Well, we wanted to come together with John and sort of do a bit of a recording with all the comments of people, tracking Roma's final movements, final moves for the transfer window, especially with Manu Kone and Alexis Salesmakers joining at the very last minute, about an hour and a half before the gong struck. So I wanted to welcome you all and thank you for joining me today. I wanted to mention our good friend Mazin, our good friend Christopher, Daniel. I got everybody in here checking if my computer has passed the medical. My computer has passed the medical. Thank you, Carlos, for being here. I wanted to apologize again on John's behalf as well. It really was out of our hands last night. We tried to connect via a third-party app in order to bring John in here because usually I'm the one doing these live streams. Unfortunately, this app failed us, and so we couldn't appear on the YouTube live stream. John couldn't hear me for some reason. Anyway, it was a bad night. I must have slept about 5-6 hours in the last 48 hours. So today I traveled. So bear with me if I'm being a bit shaky. But I did want to get into this into this transfer window, which had its ups and downs as always, and saw a lot of players come and go, some disappointments, a lot of late drama. I counted. Yesterday, we published 49 articles. We got over 100,000 views on the website. That just goes to show how much these rumors tend to attract of an audience. So last night was really epic. The past 48 hours were epic, including Kevin Danso's medical, but more about that later. I wanted today to bring you all together and so to give me some feedback, some opinions about what you think Roma were up to this summer. Did they address the areas that needed to be addressed? Whatever pops into your mind, please write it down in the chat, and I'll make sure to read it and react to it. So I will be reading down the comments. I see obviously our good patrons. If you're new to this channel or if you're new to the show and you like what we do here at Roma Press, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Roma Press, and then you can join this wonderful group of maniacs in a lot of different things, and getting early access to the episodes, getting extra episodes of the podcast, and above all, being involved in the WhatsApp patron group chat where all hell breaks loose when Roma play. So, Christopher, Andy, who was your favorite player who came in this summer? Who do you think will be the most impactful? Well, I think I would be lying if I said I didn't get excited for the way we got Kone, just because I know this was a name that was highly contended. A lot of teams wanted Manu Kone. Milan were there until the end, and I think, given where Roma come from in the midfield, given our issues with the midfield, this is a player who addresses a lot of these issues. But I do think that my favorite signing so far was Matthias Sule, just because he's a player whom not only do I like a lot, but I do think this is a player with immense potential who, if utilized correctly, can become huge for you in the long run. I think he is the exact prototype of the player that Roma will want to continue to pursue in the future. Let me go through. Andy, tell John to stop having too many kids. He was supposed to be special guest. John was supposed to be a special guest. We'll have to figure out another app, another software that we can use to do these live streams together, because something clearly was not working. We couldn't connect to our YouTube channel, and that's a problem that we want to address going in. Anthony, our good patron Andy, just popped in. What's the word on Hummels and Smalling? Okay, good point, Anthony. We can get this live stream rolling by mentioning the fact that Roma have not added a defender after Kevin Danso's failed medical, which was announced on a horrendous Thursday night. I was about to get ready to go to sleep, and then Lens decide to pop that announcement. Roma brought in Thiago Giallo for medicals from Juve. They were not convinced by his condition, a player who hasn't played competitive football in over a year and a half. So Roma are now roaming the free agent market after making a last-minute attempt for Loic Bade of Sevilla. They are roaming the free agent market, and they have set their sights on two players: Mario Hermoso, ex Atletico Madrid defender, and Mats Hummels, obviously a veteran German defender who finished his time at Borussia Dortmund a couple of months ago. These are two players that Roma want to add to their roster. Hermoso is very close to Roma, according to the latest reports, and Hummels would join if Roma managed to secure Chris Smalling's exit. So despite the transfer window being closed in Italy, the free agent market is open. You can sign any free agent in the coming months. There is no restriction. There is no deadline that you have to respect. Whoever is out there, you can go out and sign them if needed. Roma hope to finalize Chris Smalling's exit in the coming hours. He is very close to Al Fayha in the Saudi Pro League. There is still not mention of any fees involved, but if everything goes well, Chris Smalling should be out of Roma by Monday. I would assume he's being called up for the match against Juventus, and Roma, as soon as Smalling leaves, they want to close the deal for Hummels. So those are the last news for our defense. So it's weird because, again, the transfer deadline was Friday night, and yet here we are. We're talking about Roma adding potentially two new players. Hello, guys. Greetings from Greece. Wonderful to have the wonderful people of Greece. Una fazza, una razza. Musab, hello, Musab. Thank you so much. You made it, Andy. I did. Thank you for bearing with me again. If you were here, if you were tuned into this live stream yesterday, I apologize sincerely for keeping you waiting and then having to cancel that live stream. Hit the like button, guys. The Poor Juve Game podcast won't get many views and likes, I assume. The post Juve. Well, well, here we are already thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, guys. Tomorrow we have to believe that Roma can turn this around and withstand what Juve are about to unleash on us. Because if there is a team that has shown fantastic improvement under a coach, that's Juve under Thiago Motta. So it's going to be complicated. Does it look like we'll get Hermoso? Big love from Scotland. Thank you, Chris. It looks like we're getting Hermoso. Roma are very close to a verbal agreement with the player. They've managed to climb the list of preferences and overtake Galatasaray. So let's see. Hello, Andy from Transylvania. Wonderful. I have a friend from there. It's wonderful. He lives in Canada though, but he's a good guy. Make sure to like the stream. Absolutely, guys. There's 46 of us here. Only 14 likes. I would really appreciate it if you click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. This is where you get all the episodes of the Roma Press podcast in video format. So make sure to like the stream. Andy, what has become of Pisilli? Will he Oh, because he wasn't loaned out. Well, there is a lot of players who stayed behind. João Costa, Pisilli, Almaviva. These are all Primavera players and youth players who played for Roma in preseason. Pisilli, obviously, the one who was more prominent in Daniele De Rossi's games. I think we will see some of Pisilli in Europa League. For now, they're keeping them. For now, they want to keep them. I don't think there were some plans of perhaps moving Pisilli in the final day of the transfer window. But perhaps with Eduardo Bove's exit, which we can also talk about, guys, if there is something that bothers you, and I know that Eduardo Bove's departure bothers a lot of people, we can talk about it. But I do think that with Eduardo Bove leaving, Roma wanted to keep the Pisilli, who can come in handy in the midfield when you're having to play on a rainy night in Ukraine against Dynamo Kiev. Let's see. What else do we have? If we're going after Hummels and Hermoso, why didn't we keep Llorente and well, okay, Mazin. It's Mazin. Come on, man. Come on, my friend. I'm the first fan of Diego Llorente, but no, but no. If there is a player whom I would consider just a grade below Kevin Danso and how just excited I was to have him on the team, that would be Hermoso. Hermoso is a wonderful defender. Whoever is someone in the group chat for the patrons said, well, if Atletico Madrid are getting rid of him, then it means he's not a good defender because they're known for having good center backs. Let me assure you, Mario Hermoso is a wonderful player. Atletico Madrid tried to approach him for a renewal. The guy insisted on becoming a free agent. And then obviously, he's been, I think his approach to this whole situation has been a bit questionable. He was linked with Inter. He was linked with Napoli. He was linked with Bologna. He was offered contracts left and right, and he rejected them all. Right now, it's between Roma and Galatasaray. I think Hummels and Hermoso, Mazin, are such an improvement over Smalling and Llorente. It's not even close. It's not even close. Hummels was easily one of the best defenders, if not the best defender of the Champions League last season. Hermoso is a wonderful player who can do so many different things and can help Roma really also give that flexibility that we would have been granted with Kevin Danso's arrival. Now, that's something that we can talk about, guys, because I think there is a lot of speculation, a lot of stuff that is being talked about. So, first of all, let's get into how Roma began this transfer window. First of all, it starts with Florent Ghisolfi joining Roma in June, guys. So, Florent Ghisolfi doesn't really have that much time to plan the transfer window. What Florent Ghisolfi does is he starts bringing in these players that have been going under the radar for Roma, as Daniele De Rossi himself said it in the press conference. Guys like Bouba Sangaré, Enzo Lefebvre, Samuel Dow. Those are all guys that Ghisolfi himself knew and brought to Daniele De Rossi's attention. Ghisolfi, when he came in, was tasked with one thing: lower the wage bill. Lower the wage bill and try to minimize the number of loans that we're going to have. Yes. So with all those players on loan leaving the club, Romelu Lukaku, Renato Sanchez, Diego Llorente, and on and on and on, Ghisolfi had the possibility to start a revolution, because again, this is just the start of a revolution. If you want to see more of this, if you want to see something more ambitious, you'll have to wait another year, where Ghisolfi has more time to plan things in advance, because you cannot expect a sporting director to come in June and have everything planned out for the rest of the summer. I think, as always, with the transfer market, we have to take into account that there's things you plan for and things you cannot plan for. What I mean by this is, we start off with these signings that seem to come from a list that Ghisolfi held to himself. So Sangaré, Enzo Lefebvre, Samuel Dow, Matthew Ryan on a free. And then we have, all of a sudden, Mattias Soulé, a player that Daniele De Rossi liked very much. I think the costs up until then were very prohibitive for Roma. As always, Juve wait, Juve wait, Juve wait. Juve have the need to sell, and all of a sudden, the cost of the price tag is becoming smaller and smaller until Roma secure Mathias Sule for 26 million. And then Roma's search for a replacement of Romelu Lukaku, again, is a matter of an opportunity that comes to you in the form of Atletico Madrid not finding an agreement for Dovbyk opening up to Roma, and Roma taking advantage of this situation. With Kevin Danso, that's the prime example of what happens when you plan something and then that plan goes to shit. Because Kevin Danso was in talks with Roma for 3 weeks. We saw him as this ideal fit for the defense, a player who could have easily benched both Gianluca Mancini and Evan Dica. And all of a sudden, Kevin Danso arrives at Roma, supposed to sign a long-term club, a transfer fee of about 25 million for a loan of 20 plus 5 in bonuses. And all of a sudden, Kevin Danso, we get the news that Lens are getting him back. And they're getting him back because they're not really sure what Roma want of him, in the sense that there's something wrong with the medical. There's something wrong with some tests that Roma requested. Roma wanted to carry out some additional tests because some cardiovascular stuff emerged, showing that Danso's heartbeat may have experienced some irregularities. Italy is very strict about these things. Same thing happened to Mark Pubil, who was about to join Atalanta. Perfectly healthy, plays in the Olympics for Spain, plays for Almeria regularly, goes to Atalanta, fails his medical. There's not much talk about that, but the Kevin Danso thing was big. Was big because it happened with 24 hours left to go for the transfer deadline. So what Roma had to do then, they had to adapt, and they adapted by trying to go after guys like Milan Skriniar, who's out of PSG's plans. They tried to go after Loic Bade of Sevilla, but the costs again were too high. So finally, after testing the waters with Thiago Giallo, but kind of half-assedly, they turned to the free agent market. And so we are where we are, with Manu Kone also arriving on the final day, with Alexis Salesmakers joining Roma on loan, on a dry loan from Milan, in an exchange with Tammy Abraham. Now, that's a deal that I think also dictated a lot of things, because the Roma's priority was to get rid of Tammy Abraham's heavy contract. It wasn't even to get the fee from Tammy Abraham's sale. It was mostly about getting Tammy Abraham off the wage bill. That's what Roma were able to do. That's where the money for guys like Hermoso, Hummels, that's where you can go after them and offer them these important contracts. So let's see. After this summary, where are we? Thoughts on Dovbyk? Dovbyk, I think, guys, is a player who who has to have the support of a functioning team, because right now what we're seeing is a disjointed Roma. So this is where I come off in this live stream, is Daniele De Rossi has been given some serious weaponry in this transfer window. Like it or not, you may question whether Roma are better, whether Roma are worse, whatever. You cannot question the fact that they got some good players in this window. You can question Samuel Dow. We haven't seen him. You can question Buba Sangare. We haven't seen him. You can question a lot of things, but guys like Mathias Sule, Manu Kone are the difference makers. Dovbyk, La Liga top goal scorer last season. They're here to do something. They're here to become part of a team that it shows something else on the pitch, something that is not related to what we've been seeing, because what we've been seeing is something very, very disjointed. I think there is a big chapter in Roma's transfer window that was dictated by that sudden moment of uncertainty with regards to Paulo Dybala's stay, because Paulo Dybala receives that Alcazar offer at the beginning of August, and that keeps us on the edge of our seats for basically 2 weeks, going as far as the first match day of the season, and then carrying on to that second match day with Empoli, where the pressure is on. You need to show up, you need to play well in front of your fans. And what do we get? We get a horror show. So this is where I get off, is that De Rossi has been given what he asked for. If Roma secure Hermoso in the next hours, this is another guy that De Rossi loves for his adaptability. So this is where the manager comes in. This is where we have to see what De Rossi can do with the players that he has at his disposal. And the first signs are encouraging, because even today, during the press conference ahead of Juventus, De Rossi said, I already spoke to guys like Pellegrini, Cristante, and Paredes, and I said that a guy like Kone is coming in and he's bringing something else to the table. And so that those who will play in the midfield will be the ones who deserve it the most. And I think that's key. That's key. We got also Abdul Hamid, who comes in. Now, that's a player that there is a lot of hype. There is a lot of talk about him. There is also some scrutiny, but you get a right back for 2.5 million from Al Hilal, a guy who's being labeled as the savior of the Saudi Arabia national team. And so there is possibilities there. There's possibilities in this roster. And I think Dovbyk is the prime example of a guy who presents you with a huge opportunity to make him a star also in Serie A, a guy who can make the team play well, but the team also has to play for him. Because so far, Dovbyk, the few things that we've seen from him were things that we've seen from other guys in the past, guys who have struggled to connect with the rest of the team. This Roma in the first opening match days is very reminiscent of the Roma that we saw in the first half of last season. Disjointed, disorganized, loose, not really communicating, conceding easy chances, making predictable mistakes. So perhaps this is the worst time that we could be facing Juve, or perhaps, if you look at it another way, this is the best time of all to face Juve. Do you think Hermoso and Hummels will bench Mancini and Dica? No, I think they will rotate very well. I think you have to have that possibility. Guys like Mancini and Dica will thrive. If they have the threat of being benched, they will thrive. Because I do think that Mancini and Dica both very much are very complacent. I think those are two players who get comfortable very easily, and you can't get comfortable at all on this, especially with how Roma have been performing defensively. No way. Do you think Roma's medical tests are more strict after all of our problems? I think, Daniel, that Roma's medical tests are not more strict than any other team in Italy. It's just there is a lot of protocols that call for exactly these examinations with regards to the heart, stuff like that. That's out of Roma's hands. What Roma did with the likes of Thiago Giallo is, yes, they consulted, they consulted a lot on Friday with a lot of tests, additional tests that were meant to assess the recovery and the healing of his wounds, from surgeries that this player has experienced in the past. This is, again, a player who's played 16 minutes since March of 2023, 16 minutes. So Thiago Giallo was only option DF, whatever, because this is a player who was highly contended by Atletico Madrid, by Inter, and ended up going to Juve in January. Hasn't played much at all, and was really just used basically as a desperation backup plan. On Primavera, do you think we will get any prospect this season to take a place and add a value? Well, Musab, let's see, because with with the Primavera, we're getting a whole brand new Primavera, and I can't say I'm in tune with what's going on. I know only that the coach has changed, the players, a lot of important players for the Primavera have left, going on loan or leaving on permanent deals. So we will have to see how they do. But there are pieces that have stayed. So Pisil, Joao Costa, these are players that were all linked with a potential exit, but they ended up staying. Whether that was because the opportunity didn't come along to let them go, or whether that was part of the plan, we will have to see. Andy, do you expect Roma accepting a dry loan for Tammy? Maybe an indication that Roma hope to keep him if he regains his form? No, I do not see. I do not see Tammy Abraham staying at Roma after this loan spell. Roma were very, very, very determined to get rid of him. As soon as the season ended, Roma were practically searching every nook and cranny to see if they can secure a permanent deal for Abraham. Abraham was supposed to leave Roma, obviously, last year before he tore his ACL. This year, his form was so atrocious, and I think Roma realized just that this player is not going to be able to give anything to them anymore. And I think that was also felt on Abraham's end. Both him, his agent, Roma tried everything. So the fact that he goes on a dry loan to Milan just goes to show not only, well, that Milan were hesitant to pay a fee, because originally Roma were supposed to receive sales makers and around 7 to 10 million in fee, depending on which reporter you like to listen to. In the end, Milan voted against that option. Milan needed, a situation where they could take a risk, they could take a gamble on Abraham, because taking Abraham on at this point in his career is a gamble, without spending. I think Roma just went for it also because you were going to secure the left winger that you had been looking for in Alexis Salesmakers. That's a player also that De Rossi likes very much. He's said it in his interviews. He thinks this is a guy who can give him that extra step in the attack. So I wouldn't rule out seeing Alexis Salesmakers start for Roma tomorrow against Juve. Di Marzio just posted for final details and will sign 3 years Hermoso. Yeah, that's wonderful news. I think that's a brilliant addition. So late in the window, well, not really a window anymore, but beyond the window. I think this after Danso is the next best thing. I really do. Saud is a black box. How do you think he would integrate in the system? I wish he would flourish. This is a position we struggle a lot to have someone there. I think Saud gives us speed, and right now, guys, I could even use Bruno Perez. I could even use Bruno Perez. Let me see what our patrons are saying. Okay, I get patrons abusing me in the WhatsApp group chat. I think Saud gives us speed. I would take Bruno Perez right now, just because I think we're very, very predictable on the wings. Very. The fact that we had to see Zaleski start for us time and time again doesn't do much for my confidence. Doesn't do much for Roma's confidence in going forward. I think Roma have been messy. They have been slow. Zeki Salik hasn't been good so far. Angelino has left something to be desired. Tomorrow he's expected to start in what some journalists assume is a three-man defense, which could hold him back. Let's see. But I do think that if you want something from Saud, just speed, just run. Take the ball and run. So few players have been doing it at Roma these last couple of weeks, even against Empoli. The fact that you put on Paulo Dybala and Sule, just as a basically, I think that was a terrible plan by De Rossi to give something to the fans, and in the form of like a fairy tale story of Paulo Dybala getting it. If you don't see them playing together at the moment, don't play them. It's simple. But against Empoli, we were so slow. We were so slow, and Matias Sule was so ineffective on that left wing that what's the point? At least give us speed, give us some excitement, some dribbling, something. So there have to be the choices that De Rossi makes from now on have to be logical, in the sense not only based on meritocracy but also based on the qualities that you want the players to show on the pitch. You can't expect Matias Sule to be effective on the left wing just for the sake of Paulo Dybala. It's either one or the other. Or you play Paulo Dybala behind the striker and you have Matias Sule on the right. If you're gonna force anyone on the left wing, force Paulo Dybala, who's more experienced, who knows what he's doing. But these are the choices that De Rossi will have to make. How do you feel about sales makers? I said it, Alessandro, on the podcast, which we released. Unfortunately, it's still up on the channel, but I mean, basically anything that we said about Danso was of no consequence. And also we were talking about this sales makers thing as a permanent deal. I think sales makers is a player whom I've always found mediocre. At Milan, I've always found him mediocre. I think at Bologna, the fact that he was one of the best players of the team, along with Zirkzee, along with Orsolini, Calafiori, big credit to Thiago Motta, but it showed that that's a player who can do those things. And I think Paulo Fonseca wanted to keep him. Paulo Fonseca was very outspoken about liking sales makers. But I think this is a player who can come in handy. Again, it's all up to De Rossi on how to utilize him. I do think, though, that if you're going to start somebody tomorrow and you want to give a sense of unpredictability to the squad, that's sales makers. Hermoso joining, great guys. I'm very happy. I'm gonna repost it on the website. See, this is how it works, guys. Roma Press is just two guys. There is no staff. Okay, so if we have to write 49 articles in a day, that's two guys doing it. Most of the time, it's me because John is handling the backhand stuff, the technical stuff of the website. So I'm the one doing it. So if I'm here with you guys, I'm not writing the article on Roma Press. I could do the thing of Fabrizio Romano, what he does with his phone. You know, he streams and he's constantly on his phone. But I'm not going to do it. I want to have the full thing here. Ciao, Andy. Obviously, the positive of Tammy being gone is with us. But how do you feel about Giallo falling apart? Now we have Conan, potentially Hummels. Not happy about Hummels if that turns out. Nino, why are you not happy about Hummels if that turns out? What's with Hummels? What's the fear is that he's old. He's old, but he's in great shape. He was in fantastic shape last season, and all depending on what on the kind of offer that you make for him. But to get Hummels instead of Thiago Giallo, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are we really talking about that? You're getting Hummels over Chris Smalling. Now, Chris Smalling has been about as useful as a rotten egg over the last year. Smalling is done. Smalling has been dead since he signed that contract extension. It's done. He's been useless. The only game that I remember of him in the past year is that match with the Milan where he was unbelievable. And then again, back to the infirmary he goes. No, you cannot possibly hold Smalling, and Hummels is more than a great replacement for him. Hello, Andy. Thoughts on Bove leaving? Guys, we can talk about this because I know people feel it very much. Bove is a Romanista. Okay. Bove grew up in his boyhood club. Bove got to play in his boyhood club. Bove sent us to the Europa League final a year ago. Okay, we got that out of the way. He played a great first half of the season under Mourinho last year. Not great. He was one of the least worst players on the team. Let's put it that way. Okay, he was one of the more consistent performers on a team that was completely dysfunctional. But the thing with Bove is Daniele De Rossi does not see him in his plans. Okay, that's all I need. I can like Bove But if I see that he's a player who's not going to grow here, who's not going to have a future here, who's not playing, who's not giving us anything, who's not leaving any kind of impact on the team because he doesn't get any minutes, then what's the use of keeping him, and what's the use of me feeling sorry for him? He's going to go now to Fiorentina, where Raffaele Palladino will be more than happy to embrace him and give him the proper minutes that he deserves, right? He's going to give him the playing time that he wants. If he plays over 60% of the appearances in all of season, he will be bought by Fiorentina. There is an obligation that is triggered at 60% of the appearances, about 10 million, something like that, for the fee. Otherwise, it's going to be a buy option. Okay, but this is a player whom I want to see more of. I don't know what Bove, because Bove was, it seemed like Bove was already in the conversation for the national team after that first half of the season with Mourinho in Mourinho's final year, right? But since then, there has been nothing. And even when De Rossi gave him the chance, Bove was invisible. I don't want that for him. I want him to go out and play well. I want to see him do good at Fiorentina. But will I regret him leaving? No, because I know that he doesn't have a future at Roma. It's simple as that. Milan will pay all of Tammy's wages for the year? Yes. Hi, Andy. What do you think about the best possible formation for this team? I personally think a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-1-2 would fit much better than 4-3-3. Well, tomorrow it's going to be a 3-5-2, the good old 3-5-2 against Juve to contain them. I think a lot depends on exactly the kind of defenders that we're going to have next. With Hermoso coming in, you can do just about anything you want. I do think that this team should normally thrive in a four-man backline. That's what Daniele De Rossi himself had said it. Remember, guys, if Daniele De Rossi comes in, he tries that experiment of doing the three-man, and then the thing comes up, and he says, "This team cannot play with three defenders. I tried. I gave my best shot. This team is just not made for it." Okay, I get it. But we have to come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. I thought the thing with Roma's preseason, I expected more of some kind of flexibility, and also the consistency that I saw in Roma's preseason was not reflected in the two games that we saw. Because if you're going to start Pellegrini and Enzo Lefebvre all preseason, why are you not doing that in the league? Why are you forcing Leandro Paredes, an unfit Leandro Paredes, coming off a month of booze on a yacht post Copa America victory, and letting him, be the engine of the midfield, if we can call it that, if we can call him an engine right now, because Leandro Paredes, I don't even want to imagine what his shape will be tomorrow. It's going to be awful. I have a feeling. That's a player who will benefit from some consistent training, but there has to be some through lines, because right now I'm not seeing anything of what I saw in preseason. There's just nothing. Why do you think Milan and Roma are bad even after spending a lot of money? Well, Milan didn't spend a lot of money. Roma, well, a lot of money doesn't equate playing well. I don't know what the connection between that is. You still need a team. Parma are played much better than Napoli. Up until they lost their starting goalkeeper, they played much better than Napoli. You wouldn't say that that Napoli played well because they spend more money than Parma. That doesn't connect. It's Roma made some investments in key areas of the pitch in order to rejuvenate the squad and lower the salaries and the costs of the team, and record a plus on the balance sheet. So that's what Roma set out to do. That's what they accomplished. But this is a long-term thing. I'm not here to protect De Rossi because I just said it. I think he has got the toys to do whatever he wants. I think he's got the team to do what he wants to do and what the team should be achieving this season. I think he's got the players for that. It's up to him. But I do think that to integrate guys like Samuel Dow, to integrate guys like Buba Sangare, it takes time. Do I think that he should do it? Yes, because when I see Thiago Motta look at his team and be like, okay, you know what? I don't need Douglas Luiz starting. I'm gonna have this kid from the under 23 team, and he's gonna come in because I see this kid doing much better than Douglas Luiz at the moment. Good for him, good for Thiago Motta, because he's choosing players who deserve to play based on their form, not because they're named Douglas Luiz or Brian Cristante. De Rossi has to start doing that, because if I have to see one more time, Angelino struggle or Zaleski be completely ineffective, then hey, you might as well start Buba Sangare. What do I have to lose right now? If you see Tommaso Baldanzi as a midfielder, play him in the midfield. Don't continue to start Leandro Paredes, Brian Cristante. Try. So, Roma have the right to get off to a slow start. It's okay, because the change takes time, but you also have to dare. If you are bold, if you dare to fail, then I will at least respect you for it. Andy, what are your thoughts about De Rossi's reaction during the press conference regarding a possible lawsuit with the Rai journalist? Well, he also called. He also pointed fingers at La Repubblica and Marco Juric. I think he's in the right for doing it. He's in the right. Those are serious accusations of blowing things up out of proportion. De Rossi is the first one to know what happens in this city when you start putting a rumor into the mill. He knows exactly what's going to happen. He knows what the consequences of it are, not only for the fans, but also for the team. Because if you start putting on this after the second match day, you put out a rumor of the coach getting into a fight with a player, forget about it. In Rome, forget about it. The season can be compromised by something like that. And it's been like that in the past. We all remember Fonseca's second year. It was a constant rumor mill of these apparent tensions in the locker room that would get blown out of proportion by the newspapers. So De Rossi is in the right here. Let's see. We lost preseason preparation with the recent players we signed for another year. Now there is a huge challenge on Daniele De Rossi to get things aligned and be able to start forming harmony, guys. But that's normal. It's getting more and more normal that unfortunately the transfer market runs really late right now. Everybody's been complaining about it. Even my hero Di Francesco complained about it last night when Venezia lost. He went out and said, this is a travesty. I don't know if I can count on the players that I have on the pitch, because a lot of them are on the market. So who am I looking at? Will these players be here from 1 hour to the next? It's a mess. But it's a reality. It's a reality that Roma must deal with. Yes, you will have some players who will not take part in preseason. Look at Napoli with Lukaku and McTominay and Gilmore. Okay, these are guys that didn't do a single day of training with the team. Thoughts on Shomurodov staying? Good for him. Michael, I will say good for him. If that is a decision that Daniele De Rossi came to because he saw in training, and based on his words after the match against Empoli, that's exactly what he saw, is that Shomurodov showed hunger, unlike Abraham and others, then good for him. Because we have to start giving those players the props, the players that no matter what the circumstances are, you're coming back from loan, you're focused on something else. If you're staying, you're gonna give 100%. I think, from what I saw, and with Shomurodov, it was always like that. I think Shomurodov, Shomurodov's biggest downfall was the price tag, because that's something Roma will always remember. But Andrea Bellotti was 100 times worse than Shomurodov for Roma. Andrea Bellotti, look at the stats between Andrea Bellotti and Shomurodov. There is no story there. Shomurodov is far better than Bellotti at this Roma. If Shomurodov fits as Dovbig's deputy in De Rossi's eyes, then so be it. Any news about Hermoso? Well, as Di Marzio has just pointed out, Roma are closing the deal for him. He will sign 3 years. Everybody's very happy. Mats Hummels, he's too old. I understand experience and leadership, but you've mentioned too the Rossi plan with a more youth-focused side, and I feel Hummels is the opposite of that. De Rossi has been the first one to say youth-focused side, but he's also specified that when it comes to the defense, he also wants experience. So you'll have to compromise here. The transfer window didn't call for Roma to replace Smalling. Smalling wasn't going to leave up until a few days ago. That's become a real possibility only in the last few hours. Smalling was supposed to stay at Roma at one point in time, just because his entourage basically gave up in looking for stuff. There were no offers. There's nothing aside from a slight interest from Saudi, which now became concrete, and he's close. But so Roma were not even thinking about that. But if you have the chance to replace a guy like Smalling for a guy like Hummels, say even for a year, you do it. You don't even think about it. How much do we save moving Smalling, and how do we know how much he was sold for yet? We don't know. But Smalling's wages are huge for a player, again, that has been basically unreliable for over a year's time. He makes almost 4 million euros. You can't have that. I'm sorry. You can't. As good as he was in Mourinho's second season, you can't have that just based off of what he did in the past. Hi, Andy. How ecstatic are you with the reality of Lord Eldor staying and most likely him becoming capocannoniere this season? Jonas, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. It's wonderful. Musab, out of 10, how do you rate Ghisolfi in the transfer window? I would give him a strong 8 because I know how little preparation went into this transfer window. It was out of his hands because of how late he joined Roma. I think there is nothing harder than being a sporting director in this day and age, especially in clubs in Italy that have much stricter means when they have to go out and get the targets they want. Look at Inter, a team that won Serie A, a team that has all the prestige in the world, a team that featured in the Champions League final not so long ago. They've been negotiating a guy like Palacios for 6 million euros for weeks. Their major targets were Taremi and Zielinski, two free agents very early on in the window. They're still they're just still playing with Arnautovic as the backup to Lautaro Martinez. They have Correa on the team. So the reality of a team like Inter, and then so those are the guys that should be running the league. Compared to other major teams in Europe, that just gives you a glimpse into what it means to run transfer strategies for clubs in Italy. So it's unavoidable. Look at what Napoli did. Look at how difficult everything was, even for them, a team that was the Scudetto champions a year ago, a team that was meant to rebuild, and everything came at such a big cost. So I think Ghisolfi, for a transfer window where he also had to deal with that whole Dybala situation, and a transfer window where Kevin Danso fails his medical, a player that he loved and he personally picked, fails his medical. To me, that's so those are huge challenges that we also have to take into account. Do you miss Karsdorp already? Absolutely. I'm very, very sad for Rick Karsdorp, who signed for PSV today. So again, he won. He won at life. Karsdorp spent 7 years in Italy, and then when everybody thinks he's going to Turkey or Greece, he goes back to the Netherlands, back to the motherland. Andy, what's your thoughts for tomorrow's probable lineup with Angelino as a center back? But he's not going to be a center back, guys. That's not going to work. It's not. The fact that Angelo Mangiante puts him among the center backs doesn't mean diddly squat. Do you think Roma will regret not signing Banova? Well, I wouldn't say that I'm crazy about Banova. I would say that he's probably a decent fullback. in a national team that lacks good fullbacks. So Italy have been terrible with fullbacks for a while now. If Belanova is the best you got, you're in trouble. Mm, will Roma suffer because of it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if spending 25 million on Belanova would have made me happier, because I do not think that's a player that is worth 25 million. Actually, I'm very surprised that Atalanta just went on this random splurge with Brescianini and Retegui, a team that usually is very, very focused on not spending, went out of its way to spend basically 75 million on three guys who you wouldn't call great players. But Atalanta's secret, obviously, is Giampiero Gasperini, who can make anyone perform except for Nicolo Zaniolo, who's still injured. Hi, Andy. Can't watch the live stream, but we'll watch the recording. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for leaving a like. I really appreciate it. With this team, this transfer, what is the prospect of Roma? Is it still top 4 contender? We expect another year of build-up. Well, top 4 is always an objective, guys. It's not gonna go away, because the primary thing in football right now is to qualify for Champions League, so you get lots of money. You got lots of money and you get prestige. Those are things that Roma have been looking for years. So they're not just go out and say we're not going to be top 4 contenders. They have to. They have the weapons, I think, to do it. So I wouldn't say that this is a team that has to pace itself and aim lower. No way. You have to go for it, because in Italy, it's up for grabs. In Italy, it's up for grabs. I don't think Juve will keep up this tempo. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm foolish. But except for Inter, who I do think will continue to crush everybody, just because Simone Inzaghi has set a really well-oiled machine in motion, and it's very hard to stop it. I do think it's up for grabs. So a team like Roma have to have that objective in mind. I'm not going to predict. I'm not going to say that is something they have to do at all costs, but it's something that they have to aim for. Hello, all Roma fans from Finland. Great to have you from Finland, Nike. Provided Hummels and or Hermoso Jones, what would be your preferred starting lineup, all things considered? My preferred starting lineup, actually, has to do more with, again, who's performing. Because I just saw that my preferred lineup would have been something along the lines of what we saw against Empoli, with Paulo Dybala and Matias Sule behind Dovbyk. In my mind, that would have worked. It doesn't, at least not in the way that Roma proposed it. So I want to see a more dynamic midfield, but that doesn't mean I want a midfield that is physical. I want a midfield that flows. I want something where players are creative. I wanted Tommaso Baldanzi to surprise me. I want that guy to really unlock himself. I think he's got the goods to make that leap. I want to see players make unpredictable choices. I want players to make unorthodox decisions that then propel the team to something that we haven't seen them do. Because if there is something that really bothers me about these last 2 games and the first games of the season, is that Roma have been very predictable, just like they were a year ago. So I want that, that oomph that we saw from De Rossi's team when he took over and we went on that run, which culminated in Roma completely demolishing Brighton and dominating Milan, obviously. Is it true that Smalling will not be in the squad versus Juventus as he's leaving for Saudi Arabia? Right now, he's still called up. Right now, he's still in the squad list. I would assume that if talks are being finalized tomorrow, Roma give him a call and say, get out. Or he just sits on the bench, officially called up, but we all know what that means. Don't risk him. A player who's notorious for getting injuries, you don't want to risk him when there is finally a transfer in place. Do you agree that the most important signing is Manu Kone? I think that Cristante must immediately be benched. He's too slow for modern football. I don't think Brian Cristante is not too slow for a modern football. Brian Cristante may be too slow for a certain type of football that Roma would like to play. I guess that is definitely a valid argument, just like I think Leandro Paredes is not fit for a certain brand of football that Roma would want to play. So these are all things that we have to consider going forward, guys. We have to consider going forward. Um, I don't come from the perspective of, well, it's Brian Cristante, so he sucks, so he shouldn't play. No, Brian Cristante can do a decent job depending on the opponent, depending on the moment the team is in, depending on the position that you put him in. Brian Cristante is decent. He can play well. We've seen him do it in the past. I know there's a big thing about selecting certain players and just completely demolishing them, but it's not like they're useless. You can. It's up to you. It's up to you to make bold decisions. It's up to you to take into account the meritocracy. And I think if there is something that we can all agree on about this transfer window is you signed a lot of players, and a lot of players that give you a lot of versatility, a vast range of options, that you can pick and choose and you can explore and see what happens. I know that there is a lot of pressure right now. We are entering this international break. We are coming off a draw against Cagliari, a loss against Empoli at home. Not good enough. Definitely not good enough. Tomorrow we play against a really tough opponent, but it's not over. These are 3 games. We got an international break then, and then we start again. That's where the season comes alive. That's where Roma have to make the difference, guys. So Hermoso is going to happen. Possibly Mats Hummels will happen. Chris Smalling will leave Roma because unless something happens to him, knock on wood, he's a player who Roma need to get rid of, and they want to get rid of at all costs. So we're going to have possibly 2 additional signings in the coming days. But the thing that matters right now is to have chemistry on and off the pitch, to have inventiveness, creativity, health, the lack of injuries. There has to be, the fact that Insulefe is already down, bad sign, but still, there has to be that. There has to be consistency. There has to be creativity. There has to be a certain harmony. We haven't seen this team in harmony yet. It seems there is a lot of noise outside and inside the locker room. And if there's something that I wish for Daniele De Rossi is to get all of that noise outside of the dressing room, get it out, vacuum seal the dressing room, and get these guys playing good football again. That's all I can wish for. And that's, I think, what we can agree is the most important takeaway from this window. The options are there. It's up to the team right now. So with this, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this live stream. I once again apologize for last night's complications. We will try with John to do one of these together in the near future. Let's see if we can find a platform that will not make our lives so miserable. But for now, guys, if you can and enjoy the website, the work that we do for the podcast, the work that we do for the channel, if you appreciate it, if you appreciated the fact that we covered all of the transfer market with you, then please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Roma Press. It means a lot to us. It's just John and I, and we keep this ship going thanks to you guys. So it means the world to us to have your support. Thank you for being here with me tonight. I really appreciated all the interactions. I wish you guys a wonderful rest of the day. And then let's see tomorrow what Roma will show us at the Juventus Stadium as they go up against Thiago Motta's team. Hopefully, we will have a reason to be happy about the result, and John and I will not have to connect and be miserable together for the recording of the next podcast, which will then air on Monday afternoon. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for being here with me, and Forza Roma.